The jungle was quiet in a way that didn't feel natural. It was the kind of silence that pressed against your ears, thick and heavy, like something was waiting. Somewhere in the dense green of Vietnam, early 1967, a single Marine lay motionless behind a carefully chosen position. The heat was unbearable, the air wet, and the smell of earth and rot hung everywhere. But he didn't move, not even a twitch. His eye was fixed down a scope that wasn't meant for what he was about to do.
If you want more content like this, subscribe now and comment below.
And when he finally squeezed the trigger, the shot that followed would become one of the most unbelievable moments in modern military history. You can almost feel the moment stretch. The jungle holds its breath. A bead of sweat runs slowly down his face, but he ignores it. His finger tightens with perfect control, not a sudden pull, but a slow, steady squeeze. In that fraction of a second, everything comes down to training, instinct, and patience. Then the weapon speaks. A deep, thunder-like crack cuts through the silence, echoing across the trees. And far beyond what most would even attempt, a target drops. No warning, no second chance, just one shot, placed with impossible precision. His name was Gunnery Sergeant Carlos Hathcock II. To most people, he would become known as one of the deadliest snipers in U.S. military history. But on that day, what he did wasn't just skill. It was something else entirely. Something that would make even experienced soldiers stop and question what they thought was possible. Carlos Hathcock was born on May 20th, 1942, in Little Rock, Arkansas. But he grew up in Wynne, a small town where life was simple and often hard. He didn't come from privilege. As a child, he spent long hours in the woods, sometimes hunting not for sport, but to help put food on the table. There were no instructors, no advanced gear, no formal lessons, just a young boy, a rifle, and the quiet discipline of learning from nature. He watched how animals moved, how they reacted to sound, how the wind carried scent. Without realizing it, he was building the foundation of a sniper's mindset. By the time he was a teenager, he had developed something rare. He could slow himself down in a way most people couldn't. He could wait. He could stay still. He could observe without rushing. These weren't just useful skills. In war, they would become the difference between life and death. In 1959, at just 17 years old, Hathcock enlisted in the United States Marine Corps. It wasn't about glory. It wasn't about recognition. It was a quiet decision made with the same steady mindset he carried into everything. Once inside the Corps, he found structure, discipline, and a place where his natural abilities could grow. He trained as a marksman and quickly stood out. Not because he talked about it, but because of his results. Before Vietnam, one moment proved exactly who he was. In 1965, at Camp Perry, Ohio, Hathcock competed in the Wimbledon Cup, one of the most respected long-range shooting competitions in the United States. Against some of the best shooters in the country, he didn't just perform well, he won. Calm, controlled, and precise. That victory would later echo across the battlefield in a very different environment. By 1966, Hathcock was deployed to Vietnam with the 1st Marine Division, operating near Da Nang. The war there was unlike anything many Marines had experienced. It wasn't clear front lines or open battlefields. It was jungle, villages, hidden enemies, and constant uncertainty. The Viet Cong and North Vietnamese Army used the terrain like a weapon. They moved through tunnels, set ambushes, and disappeared into the environment. For a sniper, this was both an advantage and a nightmare. The jungle offered cover, but it also hid threats from every direction. Visibility was limited. Sound traveled strangely. One wrong movement could give away your position. At that time, the Marine Corps didn't have a formal sniper program like today. There were no standardized schools yet. Snipers like Hathcock had to develop their own methods in real combat. He learned quickly. He adapted, and he built a reputation that spread quietly at first, then rapidly. He became known not just for his accuracy, but for his fieldcraft. He knew how to move without being seen. He understood camouflage in a way that went beyond uniform patterns. He used shadows, terrain, and timing. He could disappear in plain sight. His confirmed kills reached 93, though many believe the true number was higher. But those numbers never defined him. Each mission had a purpose. Many of his shots protected Marine patrols, disrupted enemy operations, or removed threats before they could strike. As his effectiveness grew, so did the danger around him. The enemy began to notice. Reports spread of an American sniper who seemed impossible to find. The Viet Cong placed a bounty on his head, reportedly between $20,000 and $30,000. That was an enormous amount of money at the time. It meant one thing clearly. They wanted him gone. They called him Long Trang, which translates to white feather, because of the small white feather he sometimes wore in his hat. It became a symbol, but it also made him a target. You can imagine the pressure. Every step in the jungle, every position he took, there was always the possibility that someone was hunting him specifically. Enemy snipers began searching for him. Patrols were sent out. Traps were laid. One of the most intense encounters came during a counter-sniper mission. A highly skilled enemy sniper had been killing U.S. Marines and avoiding detection. Hathcock was assigned to stop him. It became a hunt between two experts. The jungle was silent again, but this time it felt different. Not just quiet, but tense. Hathcock moved carefully, scanning everything. Hours passed. Then, in a brief, almost invisible moment, he saw it. A tiny flash of light, sun reflecting off glass. It was the enemy sniper's scope. In that instant, both men were locked into the same reality. Two shooters, both aware, both ready. Hathcock didn't hesitate. He aligned his shot and fired. The bullet traveled directly through the enemy's scope, killing him instantly. It was a shot that would later become one of the most famous in sniper history. But even that moment wasn't the peak of his legend. That came later, under conditions that pushed the limits of what a sniper could do. The mission required engaging a target at extreme distance, far beyond what his standard rifle, the Winchester Model 70, was designed for. Most would have said it couldn't be done. The effective range simply didn't support it. Hathcock didn't accept that. Instead, he looked at a different weapon, the M2 Browning .50 caliber machine gun, a weapon built for sustained fire, for vehicles, for suppressing enemy positions, not for precision shooting at long range. But Hathcock saw something others didn't. He mounted a telescopic sight onto the M2. It wasn't standard, it wasn't refined. There were no precise adjustments like modern sniper systems. Everything had to be done manually. The weapon was heavy, powerful, and difficult to control. The target was around 2,500 yards away, over a mile. At that distance, even small factors become massive obstacles. Wind drift, bullet drop, humidity, temperature. Everything mattered. He took his time. You can almost see him there, adjusting slowly, studying the terrain, watching how leaves moved, feeling the air, measuring distance not just with tools, but with instinct built over years. He fired a few rounds to find the range. Each shot gave him information. He adjusted again and again. Then, when everything aligned, he fired the shot. The bullet traveled across that impossible distance and struck the target. It was confirmed. over 2,500 yards, using a modified machine gun. For years, it remained the longest sniper kill ever recorded. But what made it truly remarkable wasn't just the distance, it was the mindset behind it, the refusal to accept limits, the ability to adapt under pressure. After that shot, his reputation became even stronger, but so did the danger. One of his most difficult missions came when he was ordered to eliminate a North Vietnamese general. The target was deep in enemy-controlled territory. Getting there would be harder than the shot itself. Hathcock began a slow crawl, about 1,500 yards across open terrain. No cover, enemy patrols nearby. The crawl took him nearly 4 days, 4 days of moving inches at a time. You can almost feel the strain. His body pressed against the ground, muscles cramping, insects crawling over his skin. At one point, a patrol came so close that he could hear their voices clearly. But he didn't move, not once. At night, he barely shifted position. During the day, he stayed completely still. The sun burned, the ground was hot, but movement meant death. Finally, he reached his position. He waited. When the target appeared, Hathcock took the shot. Clean, precise. The mission was complete. But escaping was just as dangerous. The area filled with enemy soldiers searching for the shooter. Hathcock stayed hidden, moving slowly, carefully, until he could return safely. These weren't just missions. They were tests of endurance beyond what most people can imagine. There were other moments, too, less known, but equally important. Times when Hathcock chose not to shoot. One mission involved observing a female Viet Cong operative who was transporting ammunition and intelligence. He had a clear shot. But as he watched, he realized taking that shot could expose his position and risk nearby Marines. He held fire. That decision, restraint under pressure, was just as important as any confirmed kill. In another operation, he worked closely with his spotter, Lance Corporal John Roland Burke. Their teamwork was critical. A sniper alone is effective, but a sniper team is far more powerful. The spotter reads wind, watches surroundings, and confirms targets. The bond between them had to be absolute. Trust wasn't optional. It was survival. By 1969, after years of intense operations, everything changed in a single moment. On September 16, 1969, near Da Nang, Hathcock was riding in an armored vehicle as part of a convoy. Without warning, the vehicle struck a mine. The explosion was violent. The vehicle caught fire instantly. Inside, Marines were trapped. Despite being badly injured, Hathcock didn't think about himself. He pulled Marine after Marine out of the burning vehicle. Flames spread. Ammunition inside began to cook off. The risk of another explosion was real, but he kept going back. He rescued several Marines before collapsing from his injuries. He suffered severe burns over much of his body. That moment ended his time in combat. He was evacuated and spent months recovering in hospitals. The pain was intense. Recovery was slow. For a man used to moving silently through jungles, being confined to a hospital bed was a different kind of challenge. But even then, he didn't lose focus. After recovering, Hathcock continued serving in the Marine Corps. He could no longer operate in combat the same way. But his experience became something even more valuable. He helped build the Marine Corps Scout Sniper School at Quantico, Virginia. What had once been informal and improvised became structured and professional. Hathcock helped create training programs that are still used today. He taught more than shooting. He taught patience, discipline, observation, the mindset of a sniper. His influence shaped generations of Marines. Years later, even as technology improved and equipment became more advanced, many of his methods remained relevant, because at the core, sniping isn't just about the weapon, It's about the person behind it. Carlos Hathcock retired from the Marine Corps in 1979. He had served his country in ways most people would never fully understand. He passed away on February 22, 1999. But his story didn't end there. Today, in sniper schools, in military training programs, and in quiet conversations between soldiers, his name still comes up. Not just for the shots he made, but for the way he approached everything. Because in the end, the most powerful weapon he ever used wasn't the rifle. It was his patience, his discipline, his ability to stay calm when everything around him was chaos. And that moment in the jungle, when a machine gun became a sniper rifle, still stands as proof that limits are often just lines waiting to be crossed.
If you want more content like this, subscribe now and comment below.